So there have been a lot of good solar builds since Solar 3.0 came out, but most of them use a Three's Embrace, Shards of Galanor, or Caliban's Hand. And these are all great, but I feel like one exotic has really been overlooked for hunters and the solar subclass, and that is Ophidia Spathe. At first I was like, oh, it just gives an extra knife, there's not really much point in that. But the wording is really important because it grants 2 knives per charge. It's not like Omnioculus where it gives an extra smoke bomb. Like gain a second smoke bomb charge, but instead you gain 2 knives per charge. So that means if your knife recharges on its normal cooldown, you get both knives back instead of just one. And with Gambler's Dodge, you get both knives instead of just one, even if you have nothing charged at all. So with Knife Trick, it makes it really easy to just apply a ton of Scorch stacks and make ignitions really easily. So I feel like this is a build that's really good against like lots of small enemies or big enemies. It's almost like a mix between a Three's Embrace and Caliban's Hand, because a Three's Embrace is really good against single targets, because that weighted knife can do so much damage. And Caliban's Hand is really good at ad clear, because it just blows up so many small enemies, but Caliban's Hand doesn't really do anything against big single targets, and a Three's Embrace doesn't really help with ad clear. You can use different weapons to kind of fill in for the weakness of Caliban's Hand and a Three's Embrace, but if you just want like a good solar build that you can kind of throw on for anything and use whatever weapons, Ophidia Spathe is really good for just about any kind of content. I end up using this as my like go-to build. If I don't really know what to throw on, I just throw on this because it's kind of good at everything. Good at ad clear, good single target damage, good survivability, especially thanks to the healing grenade. So it can do a lot. To go over the build, the weapons don't matter too much, but something with incandescent is really helpful, or something like Prometheus Lens or Skyburner's Oath can scorch targets, and Promethean Lens can. The reason you want Scorching, extra Scorching, is because of Ember of Singeing, because your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. This is really important for the build because getting your dodge back faster means you get 2 melee abilities back faster. But I'll just go over the whole build starting with the super. The super doesn't matter, but I use Blade Barrage because, I mean, it's a knife build, it fits with the theme, and Blade Barrage is always good. Then Gambler's Dodge is super important to recharge the melee. I just like Triple Jump, but you can use whatever you want. And then Knife Trick is the knife I use with this. Ophidia Spathe works with any of the knives, but I think Knife Trick is the best one to use for this because you throw 3 knives that all scorch, so you can make a lot of scorch stacks on single targets or spread them out and hit a bunch of enemies at once. And then I use the healing grenade because the knives pretty much do enough work for killing things, and the healing grenade is just a nice thing to have to stay alive. But if you want, you could use other grenades. It doesn't matter too much. And then for the aspects, I use On Your Mark and Knock 'em Down mainly just so I can have 5 fragments, because I feel like this build really needs at least 4 fragments. The 5th one doesn't matter too much, but I feel like 4 is really necessary. And to go over the fragments, this one is absolutely needed. Powered melee attacks make you and your allies radiant. That is important because while radiant, final blows with your equipped throwing knife refund your melee energy. So it just keeps your melee ability going without having to dodge all the time. And then this fragment is also super important. Your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. And the ability regeneration on that is pretty good. If you scorch a target, your dodge ability just recharges really, really quickly. And that works on scorches from the knives or from an incandescent weapon or Skyburner's Oath, anything like that. And then defeating targets with ignitions grants grenade energy. This is something you technically could drop. I just think it's important for this build because I think it's always good to have the healing grenade up. so when you don't have your healing grenade, this makes it come back faster. So I guess if you really wanted to use Gunpowder Gamble, you could drop Ember of Blistering for something else, or for just, you know, the lack of 5 slots. And I would also drop Ember of Char if you had to drop 2 of them for only having 3 slots. Because Ember of Char also isn't super important. The 10 Discipline can be good for this build, because I think 100 Resilience, 100 Discipline is the best, just for the healing grenade. And Ember of Singeing kind of takes care of the class ability regeneration, so you don't really need 100 mobility. But the perk of Ignition spreading Scorch to targets is really nice, because if there's a big group of tanky enemies, you can throw 2 knives into one, ignite it, and then it spreads Scorch to all the others, and then it'll only take 1 more set of knives to ignite another target that is hit by Scorch. So it's really good for chaining a lot of ignitions. And then this last fragment is also one that's absolutely necessary. So if you went with Gunpowder Gamble instead of On Your Mark, I would definitely take Ember of Torches, Ember of Singeing, and Ember of Ashes. Because applying more Scorch stacks to targets just makes it so much easier to ignite targets with Knife Trick. Because without Ember of Ashes and those extra Scorch stacks, you have to land all 6 knives onto one enemy to ignite it, but with Ember of Ashes, just 4 knives will ignite a target, or let's say a Scorch from Ember of Char or a Scorch from Incandescent plus 3 knives is all it'll take to ignite something. And for the armor mods, they don't matter too much, but I like doing a Well Maker build, because it just gives some extra general support and ability generation. So I have, also for the stats, again, 100 Resilience and 100 Discipline. You don't need 110 Discipline, but I actually can't lower it anymore. So on my helmet, I have Well of Life, so picking up a Solar Elemental Well grants increased regeneration, so it's just extra survivability, and then Melee Wallmaker because we're getting a lot of melee kills with this build. Then all the resistance mods and Bountiful Wells, so we get 2 melee wells, or 2 wells on each melee kill instead of 1. And then Font of Might, because then when we pick up an Elemental Well, which we're going to be doing a lot, because this build makes a lot of wells, we will get extra healing and a solar damage boost. And then I have grenade cooldown on Orb of Power pickup, because like I said, I like getting the healing grenade as much as possible. Then I use a stasis class armor, because Elemental Time Dilation helps extend the time of Font of Might and the regeneration after picking up wells, and then Utility Kickstart is helpful because the class ability is super important for just getting those knives back, so this just helps boost getting the class ability just a little more. So I'm gonna go to the good old Conflux on Nessus and show the build in action a little bit. So with this build, there are some things that are nice to know. So the reset on the knives can be a little finicky. So if you have 2 charges on the knife and you throw both of them too fast, it won't reset the first knife you throw. So just spreading the throws out a little bit can be helpful so you don't lose a knife. But even if you do lose a knife, dodging resets both knives even if you don't have any. And you can see my class ability is already almost back just from the Scorch, and now I have all of it back again. You see if I throw all my knives away, I just dodge and I get both of them back. With the knife trick, there's also a way of making it easier to hit enemies that are far away. Because in the animation of the character throwing the knives, they throw the knives from left to right. Like the leftmost knife leaves the hand later than the rightmost knife. So if you turn to the left, while you throw the knives, while the knives leave your character's hand, they'll have kind of a tighter spread on them. And also if you turn to the right while you throw, they'll have a wider spread. So you can spread them out and hit more enemies if you want to. And if you ignite a target and other enemies are nearby, which there aren't now, but if there are, the ignition kill will reset the knives too. So I'm just going to get my knife back, and I'll ignite this enemy again so you can see, because it should be close enough to these other enemies, hopefully. Or not. Maybe I can ignite one of these beasts. Actually, they're too weak. I can't show it right now because there aren't any strong enough enemies, but if you kill an enemy with an ignition, it will reset both of the knives. And if somehow you lose all your knives and your class ability, and you have an incandescent weapon, if you scorch something with it, it will increase the recharge rate of your class ability. And you see, even without scorching anything with the stasis class item mods, my class ability is already like pretty close to being full with just the normal regeneration. So you can pretty much always have just a ton of knives to use on little enemies or to ignite big targets. So it's really useful for a lot of different things.